Hey everybody, welcome to Mountain Deer. We're riding down the road today. Got a little tiny bit of snow. Gonna just check out an area and see if there's any deer kicking around. And we're gonna talk about seeing tracks from the truck. There's a few little tips I've got that might help you out. Now as I'm going down the road, I'm looking for dimples, right? I'm looking for the holes going across the road. Walking tracks especially will stand right out. And anything that jumped or went in, I'm looking for poke holes going out through there. It's not unusual to see quite a bit of coyote tracks, partridge tracks sometimes, moose like crazy. And depending on the level of snow and how accurately you can look at it, usually about 3 to 5 miles an hour is pretty darn good for checking that and looking it over. So I'll take my time, just ride up the logging road nice and easy. When I come across tracks, after a while, you'll be a lot better at picking them out. Moose went down the side of the road, so a lot of times you can see some of them upcoming in front of you, but you can also see it here. Your eyes will get tired as they go back and forth, right? But I'm gonna drive at a speed where I can pretty much notice everything going through. And then if I'm not seeing anything, and especially if it's kind of rough or something, I'll be able to change my speed so that it's nice and smooth as I go, and I'll be able to notice things. So we'll ride down till we find something. Now one of the advantages to just taking your time and riding down the road is to notice where the moose cross on that road, where the hunters go in, where all the game comes and goes, which direction it's going. I like to make mental notes of that, and how big it is, and general crossings to certain spots. And if there's a big crossing, now I want to look more at the woods above and below and try and figure out why they're going through right there and the reasoning behind it. A lot of times if there's a natural lane, say where a skidder came down through and broke out onto the road, or where a skid trail meets a road, those natural lanes are where you're going to want to look on the side there to see a track. It's kind of an art to be able to side scan and look, but every skid trail that goes up into the woods, every like game trail that goes up in there, I'm looking near the road, but I'm also looking farther up. With a little bit of practice, you'll get good enough at it, so you'll start being able to tell the direction fairly quickly, whether the deer was going up or down the road, up into the woods or down out of the woods rather. Moose, anything like that. I'm looking for everything that's coming and going, and making little mental notes about the whole thing as I go. And if I find a spot where a buck comes down through, and he only goes down through, and he never seems to go up through, and with the snow you can better tell sometimes how often he's doing it. If he keeps crossing the road over and over and over in one spot, when I come through at the end of the day, I'll sweep it, and maybe I can tell better when he's coming through, right? There's always little tricks to seeing stuff. Sometimes a deer will jump from the side of the road into the middle or where the truck lanes are, and then jump again up onto the bank, and you'll only see a landing mark up on the bank. So I'm always looking for those, because sometimes you won't see any tracks, but up on the bank there's a jump mark, and then when you dig at it a little bit, you look up there and sure enough a deer's crossed. I don't know how many times I've followed trucks up roads and they haven't noticed, a big 200-pound buck has gone across the road. They didn't even see that. They don't have the mental note about it. They were driving 100 or going too fast, or they weren't looking. And now as I get up the road, I know to hunt on this side because a great big track's gone up in there. Now I've at least got a little bit of information to go. Now right here is pretty thick, got a lot of spruces and stuff, but we got an opening coming up. Oh, and there's a buck track right there. Coming right down the side of the road. He looks like he went across and went downhill. And you can see the holes up on the bank right there. And he came right down through here. So let's get out and have a look at that. I'll pull off the road here. And go look at that buck track. That's pretty decent. Oh, looks like a pretty good buck. Let's go have a look. That's a pretty nice buck. Got a decent foot on him. He's a little apprehensive. It's melted out a little bit. It's an older one, but pretty nice buck. And he went across. And the guy looked at it yesterday, and he didn't stick with it, and he crawled right into the junk. probably will step right into the open here and run right down. Yep, run right down through and down on the hump. And nobody followed that buck. That's got a nice big track on him. That's a really pretty nice deer. I mean, look at my boot. That's a nice buck. Nobody even bothered with him. Now, if he went across and went up on the hill here, that upper part's real rock and kind of rough right there. But there's quite a few deer over on that side, and if he hooks down and hooks that big hardwoods, he'll go right over that last area we were in. Pretty nice buck, and he's just out searching around looking. And maybe this guy followed him, I don't know. It looks like maybe the truck pulled off right here, but hard to tell. But there's a buck in this area anyway, so right off the bat we just learned something, and that little ride down the road was good. I would also probably ride up this road and see if the buck came from this side or from that side of this little short kind of road that goes up on the hill. That'd be some more information, you know, that thorough road work thing where you're going back out, you're checking and double checking. And also too, wherever he came from might be a doe area. You know, most of the time they go from one doe area to the next doe area to the next doe area. So like even where he came from can be good information sometimes. Okay, so once you find one from the road, we're gonna wanna do some thorough road work and finish learning about him as much as we can before we leave the rig and before we leave the truck. So here's our little landing that we're standing at right now. In the road, this is the road up here, and there's the road we're on. And this actually goes down and comes around the corner this way. If the buck, which we don't know where he came from, over here or over here, we don't, this is a pretty good sized mountain right here, and this is a long skinny ridge. We don't know where he came from, but he came off this corner and went this way. That's the only information we have. So for road work right now, we came up the road right here. We're gonna wanna finish riding up the road and see if we can finish investigating whether he was from over here or over here. And if he came across, it'd be good information. My guess is he did this, and now he's headed out here. If we have a chance to come through here and find out if he's crossed this, and we've just got done looking here and he never did that. So if we come over here and look, we're gonna wanna finish riding this circle and see if he's gone out here somewhere. Also too, if we have a little time and this isn't too long a road, we can even ride up here a short ways and determine where he came from for sure, and then out around. Later on, if we don't end up taking this deer, but we want to do more investigation, we'll come back, and now if there's a road out around this area, we'll check that and say, why did he come from there, and if there's anything else in there. We might even learn that there's a bunch of does in there, and we might even learn whether or not there's does here or here. Remember, this is a rut, and we want to know where the pockets of activity are in that area, especially if you've never hunted there before. And this buck will teach us a lot. We don't have to do a great lot of scouting because he's going to show us what the deal is. You follow a buck for any length of time, you take a day or two and you start following him around, he'll show you where every scrape is, where all the doe groups are, where the best places to travel through the mountains, where the notches are, where the hardest ground and the best going is. He'll also teach you where the best feed is in that area, and he'll teach you a lot about those woods and even the best places to travel through the cuts, next to the cuts, or wherever there's rock piles that you have to go around. He's going to show you where all that stuff is. There's so much information to be gleaned, but you want to do a little bit more thorough road work. And especially if you were going to consider taking that track, I definitely want to ride around. If there's another road right over here a quarter mile, and I drive out around and he's already crossed and gone down into another block of woods, I won't waste my time walking all the way across here to find out he went across the road, or that somebody else picked the track up over there and they're cutting me off now and they're way down in here, and I just wasted an hour and a half getting across a little small block of woods that he wasn't even in anyway. Save yourself some time and energy and stress. Back home, if everybody saw me driving down the road 2 miles an hour, they'd think I was trying to shoot a deer from the road, right? And I'm not. I'm just taking my time, going down the road, trying to learn where the deer cross, whether or not there's any new deer in a block of woods. There's a bunch of business right there. Let's back that up and I'll let you take a look at that. Somebody's stopped and looked at him, but Stopped and looked them over. A lot of little deer, so doe and a fawn or whatever. And then one mediocre buck size that's with that bunch there. And a guy yesterday or today stopped and looked it over. Being a tracker, you end up being a weatherman. You know, you watch how fast the snow melts. You're always checking the temperature and how much things have changed. I love to make tracks in the morning and look at what a super fresh track looks like and put it in my brain. So I know what a fresh one looks like, one that was yesterday's track looks like, you know. That's one of the things about it, when you start hunting old snow. You get in old snow and you drive down a road and you've made a mental note about what's going on in the road. You come back the next day and you see a new track, you'll know it, right? Something that happened that night. You end up becoming like this weatherman of tracks. And when you have old snow, you want to continue hunting where at least you know where there's a pretty decent one, but also too you have good knowledge of how it was. One of the things that doesn't seem right sometimes, I get out at the end of the day, right? I've been hunting an area that's really good. I checked all the tracks. I did thorough road work in the morning. I picked a spot. I went out. I went looking for a track, or I found a track and I went on it. Then at the end of the day, when it comes time to go home, you don't just drive out the road you were on. You take your time and you ride out the road you're on and you look it over and see if anything new. I make new mental notes every time I go back through, making sure I don't miss. Like say a big buck came through and I took it and I rode the rest of the road and there was nothing on it. At the end of the day, when I get back to the truck, if I've got time enough, I'm gonna ride back up the road again and make sure nothing's come through, so that everything that comes through, I've got a timeline on it and I know when it happened. That can be some major information and it can help you like crazy. It'll get you out of a block that doesn't have anything and put you into a section that does have what you're looking for. Okay, got a little bit of business right here. Let's take a look at this. A pretty nice track. Not too bad. That could very well be that buck that was right on the other side of that I was just talking about. Looks like we just found him, and you come across with a bunch of other deer there too. Yep, nice. Right here you can see the size of it pretty well. Yep. So your major points are: be observant and watch everything that's going on. Make mental notes on every road, just what's going on and where. And then look for connections, connectivity to your finds. If a whole bunch of deer are going down in this big area, there might be a yard or something, right? Look for the connectivity in all of your information. Lastly, don't be afraid to recheck at the end of the day and keep a timeline on the freshness of things and how it looks, because that information could save you so much time in walking that it's well worth it. And if you're going through anyway, might just well keep track of things. I like knowing if there's 4 or 5 doe down in here and there's no buck with them. When I come back through again and I see a buck going down in, and I know that they normally cross down in a certain spot and they normally hang out in a certain spot, I can drop right down in there. If I see them coming down way over here and drop down in and go right into that area where I know those does hang out, and I'm probably going to meet up with that buck. You may not even have to track him, but you know he's in that block of woods. It can at least put you on the right side of the road where you want to be. It's so crazy to not do that, and a lot of hunters don't go by what's on the ground. That information on the ground is so valuable. You don't want to miss it. We're not road hunting, we're road observing, right? We're keeping track of what's going on all these hillsides and all these areas, just kind of measuring up the way things are so that we can help make us a better formed decision on where to go and what to do. If you ask me right now, if I had to get out of the truck right now, just based on this information right here and what I've seen right here, I'd be hunting down. That's the place to go. There's 4 deer down in here. 2 old ones went up here, so there's some traffic going back and forth. I'd get on the 4 deer that are going down and just follow their tracks right down in there. And there's a feed spot or a security spot or something going on down in there, and I'd go find out what's up. And I'd especially stick with that buck. He may go down in there, not like what he finds, and move on, and he'll point me towards the next door group that I gotta go check, especially if this is a place you've never been before. Yep, it's a lot of fun, and you learn a lot, you know. Well, I hope this helps you out a little bit. Hope you enjoy the videos, and we'll try and keep them coming. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll just keep bringing you little tips and ways of helping out maybe. And what do you guys do to help you figuring out an area real fast, you know? Everybody's got different ways of doing it, but this has worked really good for us over the years. And it's a combination of what a lot of different people have said and done, and practices and advice I've listened to. We all end up becoming parts and pieces of everybody a little bit. And a lot of really good deer hunters shared all these things that I'm now sharing with you. They shared them with me, and I put them to work for me. And what works for you, do it. Take care, everybody. Happy hunting.